Hi guys, it's me, Noelle, from the main library here at Glendale Public Library, and I'm going to be reading to you Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. Here we go. Okay. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Noelle, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. And then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton, but who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. I say, murmured Horton, I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. So gently, and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the speck of dust and carried it over and placed it down safe on a very soft clover. Humph, humphed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said humph too. Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's 2, even 3, even 4. Quite likely a family for all that we know. A family with children just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to me, try not to disturb them. Please, just let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, Me too. You're the biggest blame fool of the jungle of Noelle. And the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on that flower. And Horton walked, worrying, almost an hour. Should I put the speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could barely hear it. Speak up, please, said Horton. He put his ear near it. My friend, came the voice, you're a very fine friend. You've helped us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You saved all our churches and grocery stores. You mean, Horton gasped, you have buildings there too? Oh yes, piped the voice, we most certainly do. I know, called the voice, I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't very big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you. And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, You're safe now, don't worry, I won't let you. But just as he spoke to the mayor of Speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! The elephant's talking to who are not. There aren't any who's, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense, so there." They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a big-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle of a very swift wing, and they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with a flower in his beak. But just as he spoke to the mayor of Speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! The elephant's talking to who are not. There aren't any who's, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense, so there." They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a big-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle of a very swift wing, and they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with a flower in his beak. All late that afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones. And at 6:56 the morning he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Fine that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I'll find it," cried Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on that small speck of dust." And clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover, he found that the one that he sought for was just not around. And by noon, poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. Then, on through the afternoon, hour by after hour, till he found them at last on the 3,000,000th flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, do tell, "are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. "We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go as we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please," pleaded the voice of the mayor, "will you stick by us who's while we're making repairs?" "Of course," Horton answered. "Of course I will stick. I'll stick by you small folks through thick and through thick." "Humph," humphed a voice. "For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle. And I'm here to state," snapped the big kangaroo, "that your silly nonsensical game is all through." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too." With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins and Wickersham in-laws, whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped and you're going to be caged. And as for your speck of dust, ha! That we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of hazelnut oil. "Boil it!" gasped Horton. "Oh, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you." Mr. Mayor," Horton called. "Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out, make every who holler, make every who shout. Make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in hazelnut stew. And down on the speck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in Whoville Town Square. And as people cried loudly, they cried out in fear, "We are here! We are here! We are here! We are here!" The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and the faint sound of the wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me neither." "Grab him," they shouted, "and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in the hazelnut juice." Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up, I believe in you all. A person's a person no matter how small. And you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard, so come on now and try." The mayor grabbed a tom-tom. He started to smack it, and all over Whoville, they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops and old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots on clarinets, oompas and boompas and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky. And the mayor called up through the howling, mad hullabaloo, "Hey, Horton, how's this? It's our sound coming through." And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong quite as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are they all making noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is anyone shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor from east to the west, but everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping and yipping, and everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. But it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and Mayor discovered one shirker quite hidden away in the Fairfax Apartments, apartment 12J, and a very small shirker named Jojo was standing and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp, and the mayor rushed inside and grabbed the young twerp. And he climbed with the lad up to the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is your town's darkest hour. This time for all whose have blood that is red to come out to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noises in greater amounts, so open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts." Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his throat and he shouted, "Yup!" And that yop, one very small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from that speck on the clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They've proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm planning to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the youngest kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them no matter how smallish." The end. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hi guys, it's Noelle from Glendale Public Library here, and we're going to show you what we're going to be doing today. So we've got our supplies here in front of us, and we are going to be making Horton from Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. And you can kind of see all of our supplies here. We have a paper bag. We're going to be making a paper bag puppet. So we have the paper bag. We have the elephant's face. We have a marker, which is optional if you want to draw any kind of like spots on his ears or wrinkles on the elephant's face. That's up to you. And then we also have his mouth and his little tongue. And then we have the popsicle stick and a pom-pom, and of course our glue. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to take your pom-pom and your popsicle stick and your glue. Okay, so all right, what we're going to do then is what you're going to making here is in the story of Horton Hears a Who, there's a tiny little speck that Horton catches with his trunk and he puts on top of a clover. This is the clover. All right, so you have the clover on its little stem, and you kind of pretend that there's a tiny little speck on top of that little clover, and that little speck is Whoville. The Who's are on that little tiny speck called Whoville. So we're going to set that over here off to the side. Now then, we're going to get to our paper bag. Okay, so you can kind of see that there's one side that doesn't have a flap, and then the other side that does have the flap. Okay, so this is the side we're going to be working on. All right, so what we're going to do, again, let me get my glue. There it is. What you're going to do is you're going to put glue okay, on the mouth. You're going to see two sides. You're going to see one side that has the tape and one side that does not have the tape. What I want you to do is I want you to glue or put the glue on the side that does have the tape, because this is going to go face down. All right, so give me a second, and I'm going to put some glue on my mouth and tongue. So give me a sec, okay? All right, so what you're going to do is once you have that all glued up, you're going to take it, you're going to flip it over, and underneath here you have that crease, that back crease. See it? I want you to put it right into that crease, right in the middle, and give it a good press down. Okay, whoops. And because it's only taped together, you might get some glue that squishes through here, which is fine. Most glue's dry clear, so don't worry about it. You just do want to make sure that whatever glue you use, it doesn't stick to the top part of this flap, okay? Because if you do, Horton's mouth won't open, and your puppet will not be a puppet. Okay, so you got that all pressed down. Now then, what else? What you're going to do, another thing you're going to do, the next part is you're going to set that aside for just now. And if you want to, maybe his ears are flapped out like this. I don't know. What you can do is you can do some, I'm going to make like a kind of an inside of an ear here, okay? So let me just play with that a little bit, and I'm going to do the other side the same way. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want, but you know what? I want some little inside of ears flaps showing outward. All right? And maybe he has some eyelashes. Who knows? Elephants do have some really pretty eyelashes if you ever see them. All right, so there's my Horton. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Horton, and where his mouth is U-shape here, it's going to match up kind of in here, just above it, all right? So what I want you to do is, if you can see it up here, it's too high. If you can still see it, it's too high. If you can still see it, oh, there's where it disappears, all right? So that's what I want you to do. So I want you to glue, you can kind of feel right there, put glue on the paper bag, not on Horton. Okay, that's important. Okay, so you can kind of lift up his face here, grab your glue. What I want you to do is I want you to put the glue on the bag and not on Horton, because sometimes you can misjudge where the glue is and you'll stick the paper bag shut. You don't want that, okay? So I want you to press that down good and hard. Okay, kind of going along the crease of that paper bag flap there. And you're going to have some glue that pokes out of the little eye holes here, but that's okay. Like I said, most glue dries clear. All right? So there is Horton. And if you wanted to, you could, with some tape, you could stick the little clover stem to his trunk, and you could play like this is Horton and you are protecting the Who's on Whoville. So I say it's a paper bag puppet. This is pretty, I want to say pretty common for in the way of puppets. But you stick your little hand, whoops, you stick your little hand in here, and that little flap right there underneath. If you fold your little fingers like this around that flap in the inside, you go, you have a little elephant puppet. See? You go, and there you have it. That is a Horton paper bag puppet.